All right. We appear to be streaming, and there appears to be audio. So let's get started. What I want to demonstrate today briefly is how to log color grade live footage in OBS purely within OBS. First, of course, is why? Why might you want to be doing this? Well, I first started thinking of this when during Annie Clover episode 4, generally Annie Clover episodes, where we film in a location like this in our club. And there's one set of windows here that we're looking out at, and it's totally dark on the inside otherwise. And it's really quite dark on the inside and in the DJ booth. And over there in the windows, it's really, really bright. And I need a lot of flexibility in dynamic range and both not blowing out the, or really, while allowing some of these highlights to be blown out, I want the interior to be reasonably visible and well exposed in a manner that would be actually fairly difficult to do because of the challenging lighting here, how we're looking at the light, without the dynamic range that log gives you. To do this, and also one thing that I used more recently during Anikura Unison countdown is, if I head over here to part 8, is maximizing the quality of the in-room video while maintaining a good amount of color vibrancy and dynamic range for a video screen in the background. You'll see that this is real video, in that as the video changes here, you'll see that the reflection changes. So we did not do this using using green screen, and this is during daytime. So there's daylight coming in through my windows here. So I don't have control over the lighting. I have some, but not a ton of control over the brightness of the screen. And of course, I don't want the screen to be all like washed out, right? I want the colors to be vibrant like it is here, while maintaining decent exposure. This could be better. Decent exposure of the performer and of the decks and the other objects in the room. So everything here is visible. And this is where color grading in software and using log from the camera can really help get a lot more options in how we can make the image look on screen in a live recording. And also to change the color grade as the circumstances change, as the lighting may change in a given scene. So if I'm filming a festival that is lasting a long time, and I've got outdoor lighting, ambient lighting from the sun, that's going to change throughout the day. The color temperature may change throughout the day. There may be various changes throughout the day. And it's actually not too hard. It takes 2 plugins. It takes everyone's favorite, Zamar's StreamFX plugin. And in particular, the StreamFX plugin adds a color grading filter. It's a color grading filter that we really need to use. And then we need a vector scope in OBS. The process of getting video out and doing it separately in DaVinci Resolve, that's a pain. I tried it. It is what I did. I think I might have done it here for this show because I didn't know about the color monitor. But this makes it way easier. Norihiro's OBS color monitor plugin. So I have both of these installed, and I have video coming in from my screen. Let me give you a quick preview of what that looks like in full screen here for the record. And this is coming in from, in this case, from my Canon EOS R5, currently set in regular mode with manual exposure. The camera that I have, the lens rather that I have is manual. So I use the histogram, set a reasonable exposure by changing the aperture, and I have that here in the same scene. And I've got the screen here, and it turns out to be dark right now. There's indoor lighting, but I have only so much control over my indoor lighting. My living room lights are either on or off. And then I have a couple of props here stood up in front of the screen. And now I'm going to turn the screen on. And let's head over to a video. Let's do let me mute this for now. Let's do the Twitch VOD for countdown. All right, let's go to maybe let's go over to we can actually see it already, that you'll notice how the top bar is so washed out now. But we can see it more. Obviously, if we get over to, I'm trying to get over to assertive set. All right, so here we go. So we're in assertive set here. We'll see the highlights are blown out, and the top bar, the overlays are also blown out. And now I can adjust the exposure, right, through a couple of different ways, right? I can change the shutter speed, the ISO, and the aperture. The easiest is for me to just do the aperture because they all do something relatively similar. And I can get things kind of okay here. So now we see the screen is, well, it's still a little blown out, right? And we'll see that, okay, so the video here is still a little blown out. It's kind of desaturated. And whereas what's in the room now is just really, really dim, right? It's really dark here. And so I can turn it down a little bit more. And I think that's a bit better for the video, right? Now we can see the video and the text chat relatively clearly. The saturation of the video isn't super great, but it's just too dark in the room, right? And this is a problem, right? This is not what I want to get. It's like no matter what I do, I can't get an image that looks good. All right, now the room is dim but acceptable, but the screen it's too bright. It's blown out. If you look at the chat window, right, you can barely make out the emotes. The text is blown out. It's really quite hard to see what's going on. This is not ideal, right? This is par for the course when we say, oh, you're filming a screen, right? Oh no, you're filming a screen. This looks like crap. But log can save us. It can help us do better. So now I'm going to change this over to log, and I'm going to turn on C-Log 3, which in Canon is going to give me the most dynamic range. And depending on your camera, you have different log modes. And we'll see now the image is much flatter. And it's a little dark, and generally in log, it's recommended that you overexpose the image a little bit. So I'm going to open up the aperture here and make it a little on the bright side, right? Okay. So what do we have now? You'll see that actually some of these things actually don't look so bad now. If we see here, the screen actually seems to have a little bit more color. It's still a little bit too bright. The room is okay though. It's kind of grayed out, right? It's kind of washed out, but it's not terrible. All right, this is the end. Let's get a few more minutes here. And so what can we do? How do we, now this image, however, doesn't look good either. It's real flat, right? Classic log profile flat image. So how do we make this look good? Well, let's start with pulling up Tools, New Scope Dock. Let's do a new scope dock of preview, because preview is where I have full screen. All right, and let me dock this up to the top. And I want to show the waveform and the histogram, and I want them in a parade. Okay. Now we can see a few things, right? First, the screen is both the blackest and the whitest part of the room. And I'm probably going to have to sacrifice some of the blackness. And the dynamic range here is a bit compressed, right? These are the levels across the horizontal span of the screen for each of the color channels, red, green, and blue. So what's at the bottom should be the blackest part of the screen, and the top part here, that's the whitest. This area here is probably the whitest part of my room, and the screen has some white parts that are maxing out. So what I might first do on it's not too bad. Right, what I can do on camera is try to adjust this. Let me show you what it looks like when I adjust the exposure on the camera, right? So if I close it down, you'll see that that's the top part there. And then if I open it up, so this gives me an idea of what that whitest part is. If I bring this up, I want to try to overexpose a little. Right, which means I want the whitest part to be at the peak, to be hitting the top. And so that's up there, and I should have full whites up there. And then now I need to pull down the blocks. And how do we do this? Well, there's no, pick up the filter. I'll add in the color grading filter. Now, if you want to get advanced on this, go to YouTube, find videos about color grading in DaVinci Resolve. The parameters here that are available in StreamFX match to the parameters that are available in DaVinci Resolve. I don't know how to use all of them. I suspect many of these would be subjective, but the primary ones that really matter are lift, gamma, and gain. Don't touch offset. And then we'll also have to make adjustments to saturation and contrast. The other items I think are more advanced and aren't necessarily strictly necessary. So we start with the lift. The lift is where we set the black level. And I will basically pull the black level down so that the blacks in the rest of the room will be matched down to the blacks of the screen. I don't need that black as part of the screen. So I'm probably going to pull down the black level so that maybe around here is black. So let me pull this down. Leave a little bit of headroom. That seems a little bit too much. Now that slider is kind of fiddly, so I think minus 12, minus 13. Leave a little headroom, I think minus 12, right? I can still see a little gap down there. So we'll take a look at minus 12 and already looking better. Gamma I'll leave till later. Now I want the gain. And the gain here, I'm going to pull this up only enough so that it doesn't blow out the video screen. Oops, 120, a little too much. Maybe 110. A little less. 108. $100. Don't need much, actually. 5. Yeah, okay. And then the saturation. Here's where the prompts might fall short, is because there isn't a human being in the frame. You want to be a little bit careful about going to too much saturation with human beings. Now, since I'm in the screen, optimizing for the screen with a human standing in front of it, what I would do basically is max out the saturation to the limit before the human being looks weird. So I can pull up the saturation here. Wow, I can pull this up quite a lot. That red, though, from the Doctors Without Borders logo is too red. It's at 140, a little bit of a slightly cartoony look. And then we also need to increase the contrast a little bit. So let me increase the contrast here. That gets the blacks much nicer. So now let's try to get, I'm going to try to get the outline of Verchan reasonably black. I think 110. Yeah, so now there's some contrast. And then I can adjust the gamma a little. actually want to push down the gamma a little bit. Yeah, I don't need to push up the gamma. Actually, I'm going to push down the gamma a little bit. -8. 0, -8. Yeah, -8 looks decent. Okay, so I'm getting a good amount of color on the flags and on the logos at the top. The lighting in VR chat is a little two-tone, but the reds, they do pop. So that looks good. Let me try something a little bit different. Since some people are VJing to anime, let's put on oh, why not? Actually, let's not actually put it on an episode, because then I have to wait around for different parts of the screen. All right, what I actually want, okay, so I need to make a little bit of adjustment. What I want is, yeah, let's take a look at this. So this is the preview page. There's a lot of blacks here. Yeah, this actually, let me start over. Let me start over on this screen here. I'm going to leave the contrast and the saturation where they are. So I think I want to lower the exposure a little, because in that episode 11 preview, she is carrying a bright yellow snow shovel, which you cannot see. So I'm going to stop this down a little more. Okay, 2.8. Yeah, okay, so I was a little bit overexposed there. I take it a hair. Yeah, half stop. I don't need that half stop. Okay, yeah, so I do need that top part, this section here on the scopes, those greens there that we can see on the scope here. I don't want that. I don't want that totally blown out here. And then, so that gets the yellow shovel in place. Now so I was a little bit overexposed there, and that was the problem. So now let's again go through, lower this now. 8 is now too much. 7 looks good. little tiny bit of headroom. 6? 6 is better because the red channel didn't seem to have enough headroom there. I want to see a little bit of black at the bottom. So 6 looks about right. Now let's pull up the gain. I really care about that yellow shovel. Oh, so that's too much. 110, 8, 9, 110, 109, 108. Like 109. Then I'll do the rest of this adjustment in gamma. Okay, so I've got a decent amount of dynamic range now. Yeah. Might go higher. What was going on there? Why was it changing so much? I mean, I can still see that snow shovel at 120. 30? 30 is a little too much. 120 is okay. 125? 24? Or 124? Then which way do we need the gamma? Okay, down makes that. Yeah, down can make that shovel pop. So let's go -6 on the gamma. I think that's it. I just have to see maybe there's too much saturation. Let me take a look at the little bits of sky in that. Yeah, actually, maybe more like 120, 125. This seems more reasonable. We need more contrast. A little bit more. 115. I think this is enough contrast. All right, I would like to be able to resolve between the penguin and the table. All right, so at 100, I can easily resolve between the penguin and the table. But the image is a little washed out. At 105, I can still resolve. Image has better contrast there. 110, a little better. Still okay. 115, a little bit harder to resolve between the penguin and the table. 14, 13, 12. Maybe 10. 10 seems to be the limit here. Yeah, so we have the yellow of the screen is coming out, but the yellow here on my ab roller is not glowing too much. So let's try going to the preview screen here. A little blown out. Some of these, not too bad. See, do I want to reduce the amount of gain? Maybe 120? Drop the gamma to -9. Doesn't make a huge difference. Let's leave it at -6. But maybe even a little bit less gain. I need more than this. 5. 9. Yeah, that's not too bad. 109 is not too bad. 104 is a little better, right? But we can see in like Amefra, there's a pattern back there. And at 110 is hard to make out. At 105, you can still see it. 106, 107, 108, 106. Then maybe I won't drop the gamma so much. Maybe I'll make this +4 the gamma a little bit so that the room isn't too dark. Okay. Now I can put myself on screen. Yeah, I don't look like an alien. My shirt doesn't look like an alien. So that seems okay saturation-wise. I mean, it even looks like I could go up a little bit more in saturation. Because these yellow bits here aren't glowing. Yeah, actually, even 140 seems to be okay. That seems decent. And then yeah. Now it's a little bright, but wow, right? Now, what was completely blown out before is now kind of competitive with green screen, right? There's good color range here behind me, and I'm reasonably well illuminated, and I don't look like an alien, and the TV is no longer washed out. So let's go back to the stream. We take a look at some other people's sets. I do kind of like the stream because we didn't get any, we didn't get flagged for any video hits. And oh wow, so you can see the pattern in the yeah, having having the right test case really makes a difference. This moving video was hard to really lock on. But yeah, we've got the there we go, and then yes, if we take a look at Crusaland, these guys have actually a pretty challenging scene here because they've got some video footage in this corner, which I could probably tune better for. But this is basically the gist. And this just gives you so much more control. Right? It's not that many controls. Two major controls: the lift and the gain, and then saturation contrast. Once you figure out what works within the real part of your scene, right? What you want the look to be, that's about. You don't need to change that too much. And then just tuning the lift, the gain, and the gamma based upon the particular parts of the image that you want to highlight. So if you have a screen, any particular video, then you would put that on and then check against it, right? So what we have here is something that is reasonable, right? I have a pretty reasonable grade now for any video in the back end, and then I can make adjustments, right? I think there's, a little bit of challenge. The image is kind of too much blue in the inside the image, but I don't want to drop the blue too much because that may adversely affect the rest of the screen. I guess Penguin in the middle from Penguin Drum doesn't need as much blue. So I have some leeway here to do potentially like drop the blue gain a little bit. Right, because I could drop the blue gain and take it down to maybe 90%. And the color balance is still okay. And that improves things a little bit for this particular scene, but it might not work in other scenes. I don't want to, it's not that the camera is bad. And some things like color temperature, I do find a bit easier to adjust in camera than to do it here. I think in general, making the scene a little bit warmer makes it a little bit easier. So if I take the color temperature, here, 3200 Kelvin. Yeah, that's a bit of a better balance. The scene is a little bit warmer in the room, but that really improves things in the screen. So that is another thing to play around with, is the color temperature setting in the camera. I think that having, especially if you have a screen, right? There's other reasons, right? Like backlighting or whatever. But if you have the screen, I do think that setting the camera a little warmer works. And then of course you can. This is just like, oh, the screen, I can't do anything. I don't have the remote. I can't adjust it, right? Of course, there is the option of adjusting the screen also, right? So, well, I'm already at the darkest mode, ISF Expert, Dark Space Night mode. This is already the best possible case. But here now, we'll see that the screen is pretty vibrant, and I'm pretty okay too. Let's advance the stream a bit. Right, DJ Tom the SC. And he's got an interesting screen also, because he's got the characters here in the corner. And you want those guys to, if you were broadcasting, you want those guys to resolve reasonably well. I can read the on-screen text. The headers are good. Tom looks pretty good. Color balance obviously isn't the same as what I can see here, right? But Tom's pretty good, right? Images here are pretty good. My props are all visible, reasonably good. I'm okay. I'm not ultra dark or anything. And I don't have weird skin color, although that could be adjusted. And this is my room lighting, right? I don't have any special lighting. I've got one ceiling light and another stand light over to the side. And that's it. I don't have any directional lighting, anything special. But by doing this color grading, I can get a lot of flexibility in setting up the scene. And you can probably find other reasons to use this, other challenging lighting setups that don't necessarily involve balancing a performer with a screen or something like that. I was really quite impressed at the difference, just the difference that you can achieve in the quality of what you can get within the bounds of the without blowing things out in the image, by balancing out by color grading here and sending in log from the camera. That's went on for a while. There don't seem to be any questions or anything in chat, so I think that is it. Yeah, I highly recommend for live camera setups. Wow, using log this way is awesome. The amount of control you have and the amount of dynamic range that you can resolve from a camera. Now, the R5 is a decent camera, but actually previously, and honestly, if I had more time or inclination, I'd do it again. The Zcam E1, which cost me $200, and unfortunately, you can't find them that easily on eBay for that price. You have to hunt for them. Has log, and it's micro four thirds. So I put a speed booster and use the same lens that I'm using now. Can easily achieve the same similar results. In fact, the first time I did this, I used log. Coming back here, right? This is done using Zlog, but using one of their built-in LUTs. And their built-in LUTs come in a variety of just EVs, and so I use the EVs in their LUT to grade this, which is why we can still get quite a good image. It's hard to convey to you, like in the DJ booth and down here in this section here that's covered up by the deck cam, how dark it is compared to out there, right? Because there's windows, there's light glaring in, it's actually quite difficult to see inside. And this just did an amazing job. And if I were able to color grade this live at the venue, I could do probably another, I wouldn't say order of magnitude, right? But I think a couple of stops better than what we see here. Yeah, I think that this is the way to go if you're doing a live setup. And having the scopes here in OBS makes things just much easier. It's so much easier with the scopes here rather than doing the method. There's a method people use where they generate a screenshot and then you take the screenshot into DaVinci Resolve, and then you generate the LUT in. You do the correction in DaVinci Resolve and generate the LUT, and then you come back and then you bring the LUT into OBS, which you can. There's a LUT filter here, and this LUT filter will just take you don't need to generate that weird PNG. This will take a cube file directly. And so you'll export the cube file from DaVinci Resolve, bring the cube file in here, no problem with that. But it's much easier. The live workflow, especially if you have a limited amount of time to set up for a show, is much easier to do here. And actually, right, you look at this and you say, well, actually the room is probably too bright. I don't even need the room this bright. And so I can probably bring down the gain a touch so that the blues aren't so. First, I could color balance this a little bit more here. All right, so I could take this to 5. And then maybe take this down to 100. But there actually is even more leeway here. And then I probably might adjust the gain, the gamma a bit, or increase the contrast some, right? There's a lot of options here, right? The room is sufficiently well lit that I have a good amount of leeway to balance out the room lighting versus the screen here. All right, I think that's it for now. Thanks for watching.